the U.S. banking collapse is coming, folks, and BRICS in Russia meeting tomorrow to dethrone the U.S. dollar. So President Putin has a plan to defeat the U.S. dollar, and he's hoping to build a new global payment system. That's what this big meeting is all about. You're going to be trade deals, there's going to be handshaking about military deals and all of that. But this, make no mistake, this meeting in Russia this week is all about dethroning the U.S. dollar. It's all about protecting themselves against U.S. sanctions, and it's about making sure that they are protected going forward, and how to settle these transactions using a BRICS currency, which is not the U.S. dollar. Now, we just got this. On top of all of that, the timing of this with these banks, U.S. banks, these top U.S. banks are with their unrealized losses. Take a look at this. This is an unbelievable chart. Are 7 times higher than during the 2008 financial crisis. Look at this. Now, keep this up on the screen. This is unrealized gains and losses. So, yes, they haven't sold these bonds that they heavily invested in yet. They haven't sold them, so these are unrealized, right? Means at some point, they will come to maturity. At some point, they will need to sell these. At some point. That's because of rate increases. Yes, it is different than what happened in 2008 with the mortgage-backed securities that they were heavily invested in. And then, people couldn't pay for them, so they lost all that money. At some point, they will have to cash these in. At what point will that be? Because the United States government just hit $35.7 trillion in debt. And month after month after month, the U.S. dollar is being dethroned. Other countries are ditching the U.S. dollar. So at what point will the banks then cash these in? Will it be as bad as it is now or worse, is my point. It's not going to be better. You think the U.S. dollar is going to rebound miraculously where there's not going to be this large amount of debt tied to it? I like this tweet. It sums it up perfectly because this is what it's facing right now. So you might say, oh, it's not that bad. They haven't cashed these in just yet. Gonzalo says, as the Fed's Neil Kashkari said on national TV, the Fed's liquidity is unlimited. They will keep feeding the debt monster with new liquidity until the dollar is no longer the world's currency. Then it's game over. Right. So they'll keep feeding it. And for a while, it'll feel fine. Oh, the U.S. dollar against the euro, the U.S. dollar against the Japanese currency is fine. No worries about it. Just wait, because we're going to keep feeding this thing. Jerome Powell, the Fed, they're going to keep feeding this thing. Until what? Until it's over. Until the music stops and they pull the chairs out from underneath you. And that's exactly what's happening simultaneously with what's happening in Russia at this very moment at the BRICS summit. Now, what's going to happen when that happens, right? So that's the next question. What happens when these banks don't have the money to cover these losses? Well, guess what? Forget bailouts, because those aren't sexy anymore, and no politicians want to be involved in it, and the banks know that it's a dirty word. So now the new law is written in the United States of America for bail-ins, as we've been talking about on the show for about 2 years now. Bail-ins is now the law of the land in the United States, which means that you who have put your money in these banks, they will use your money to cover these losses, nationalizing basically your currency to cover these losses. This is now federal law in the United States. Here's economist Richard Wolff, great economist, brilliant thinker, to explain this bail-in process which is coming.
The problem is the politicians who give banks big bailouts, as they did, get to be hated by the mass of people who understand very well what's going on. That private banks, to make private money, want the government to bail them out, and they don't want to have to do it. But the banks don't want to do it. So here's what the banks and the politicians got together. They found another sucker. You know who it is? The depositor. It turns out that the laws have been rewritten, starting with a bank in Cyprus that went belly up a few years ago, to allow banks, when they can't recover money they lent and should not have lent, they don't now have to go to the government to get a bailout. They can get a bail-in. You know what that is? Taking money from the depositors who put money in the bank and simply taking it to recoup their own capital that they can't get back from the people they lent to. Is it legal to have a bail-in, to take the money of the depositor and not give it back to them? The answer is yes. In many countries, including the United States, the laws now allow a bail-in.
Now, Free Spirit in the chat here on YouTube says, do we need to empty our bank accounts? And I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money in that way. I can tell you we haven't done that. That's not something that we're going to do. But I think that the government is very concerned that many people will do that because once they realize the emperor has no clothes. And what they're saying is, of course, that the people who are in the know, if you are in the know, then you will be protected. If you're not in the know or you're being kept blind about all of this, you will be screwed. And so there was a private FDIC meeting that happened about a year and a half ago. We featured it here on the show at the time. And many of you said, I mean, your jaws hit the floor, as did ours.
In fact, Philip said that he thought it was the Simpsons character that was literally planning evil.
Yes.
Mr. Banks or whatever.
Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns, is that what it is? Yeah.
Because you guys are not supposed to see this video, okay? These were FDIC bankers discussing bail-ins and how they don't want you to know about it, because if they tell you about it, then you would probably take your money out of the banks, basically. And this is where the issue would arise. So we want to keep it quiet. And actually, they go on to talk about how we would only release this information on a Friday afternoon, essentially. So here is this FDIC meeting, now added with some subtitles so you can hear these guys discussing this back and forth. Lawyers and FDIC bankers basically trying to keep this information from you about what's about to happen with bail-ins. Watch.
Should be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim, right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do, that we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
Yeah.
They don't need to know that.
You guys don't need to know that.
You know, if something is beneficial to people, they don't need to keep that information from you. It's just like, this is so absolutely clear that they are aware of how detrimental this is to people, because you don't try to hide something that's helpful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. We have a laundry list of that stuff over the past few years, right? I mean, as it relates to COVID. And I mean, look, you're watching us on Rumble right now. There's a big order now for ivermectin ad right there. That was banned and kept from you, right? Oh, that's helpful to people? Don't tell people about it. Keep it quiet from people, you know? Yeah, but, oh, wait a minute. So now my money is not really my money. It's nationalized in the event that Bank of America craps the bed. Bank of America earlier this year, of course, made a huge bet on big investments, and they had a paper loss of over $100 billion. Who's absorbing that? These big banks gobbling up all of these smaller banks that go insolvent from these mortgages, these commercial mortgages. Then they gobble them up into one big group and one big entity. Oh, your money's safe. Don't worry. The FDIC will insure you up to $250,000. You're safe until they need your money. Meanwhile, as people are fully aware right now, the alternative, they don't want you to know about the alternative. These banks certainly don't want you investing in gold and silver and precious metals. They absolutely don't. This is the FT, the Financial Times today. Gold hits record high as rate cuts and Middle East tensions fuel demand. Yeah, what's happening in the Middle East right now? Disaster. Here's Bank of America's plan. They call it the last safe haven. Bank of America, gold is the last safe haven amid rising U.S. national debt. And by the way, why is Bank of America buying so much gold right now? You should ask yourself that. Why is J.P. Morgan Chase buying so much gold right now? You should ask yourself that.
After B of A has a major outage, where customers see $0 on accident in their account, right? And then they're like, well, the US dollar is kind of a joke anyway, so
we're buying gold.
Yeah.
So why are U.S. big banks that operate in U.S. dollars buying up so much gold? Wake up, people. Pay attention to what's happening right now. And you guys should be privy to this information, but the FDIC bankers that keep it behind closed doors don't want you to know this information. So thank you guys so much for subscribing and being part of our channel here. If you suffer from daily pain, I need you to listen to this message very carefully. What we know about pain relief is changing forever. As we age, aches and pains are normal, and we're all searching for effective ways to relieve pain without side effects and addiction. Let's be frank, we've all seen the horrors of the opioid crisis. You may even be affected personally. Your family might know someone that has been affected by this. That's where a pioneering medical scientist comes in, Clint Winters. You may have seen the world-renowned health expert featured in the national media. He's unveiled a natural pain reliever that has taken the world by storm. And I'm talking about Canoladine, the 100% drug-free way to get full-body pain relief without dangerous pills. As you read this right now, Canoladine has become the go-to pain reliever for over 1 million Americans, hundreds of professional athletes. It was even named as the UFC's #1 official pain reliever for the UFC. Right now, you guys can try it. Go to trykano.com/redacted, and you're going to get it for less than $1 per day. You can access the only Canoladine product in the world for less than $1 per day. Clint has provided this special link for you guys. You can guys get this special discount. Just go to trykano.com/redacted. I see a bunch of people in the chat who've already ordered this. Give it a shot. If you suffer from chronic pain, you don't want to have that addiction from drugs, try kano.com/redacted, the 100% drug-free Canoladine. Try it for less than $1 a day.